from the sweetest flowers on earth? No, thank you, said Annie. Rubies as large as hen's eggs? Said the man. No, thanks, said Jack. You would not accept the book's weight in gold? Said the man. We don't need a reward, really, said Jack. Since he likes books so much, why don't you just tell the caliph to use his gold and rubies to buy more of them? Said Annie. Again there was silence. Then the man cleared his throat. When he spoke, his voice was gentle and familiar sounding. Look up at me, Jack and Annie, he said. Jack opened his eyes. He slowly lifted his head. First he saw gleaming gold slippers, then a long white robe with gold trim. Then a familiar face. Who is it? Who could it be? Jack gasped. He couldn't believe his eyes. The man wasn't a scary person at all. The man was Mamoon! He was Mamoon! Chapter 9, House of Wisdom. Mamoon, said Annie. Yes, said Mamoon. I am very glad to see that you have safely arrived in Baghdad. We're glad you're safe too, said Annie. We were worried about you. I looked everywhere for you after the sandstorm, said Mamoon. Finally, I gave up my search and returned sadly to Baghdad. I assume you found your family? Oh, sure, said Annie. We found them and we found your book, said Jack. When we couldn't find you, we decided that we should give the book to the caliph. Mamoon smiled. You still do not understand, do you? He said. Understand what? Said Annie. I am Caliph Abdullah al-Mamun. You're the caliph? Said Annie. But how? What? Stammered Jack. For many years, I have wanted a book of Aristotle's wisdom, explained the caliph. I heard that such a book had been found in the city of Damascus, and I made arrangements to acquire it for my library. It was most important that it arrive here safely. I have long wished to travel again through the desert as I did when I was a boy. So I disguised myself as a humble merchant and made the journey. My fellow travelers never knew my true identity. Wow, whispered Jack. You have shown me that you have a great respect for books and learning, said Caliph al-Mamun. And you have also proven you have humble hearts. Before you join your family, I want to show you a very special place. I call it the House of Wisdom. The House of Wisdom? Burst Jack. That sounds great. It is my hope that the world will indeed find it great, said the caliph. Come. He started to leave the room. Jack and Annie rose from the floor and hurried after him. Carrying the ancient book of Aristotle, the caliph led Jack and Annie out of the room of the tree. His gold-trimmed robe billowed about him as he swept down the corridor. Every person he passed bowed low to the floor. Another mystery solved, Annie said to Jack. She quoted from Merlin's letter. Greet a friend you once knew and a friend to be. Both friends are the same person, said Annie. Mamun from the desert and Caliph Abdullah al-Mamun. Right, said Jack, smiling. The caliph led Jack and Annie out the front doors of the palace. In the courtyard stood the camels, long poles attached to their saddles. Resting on top of the poles was a small carriage decorated with gold tassels and brass bells. Servants helped Jack, Annie, and Caliph Abdullah al-Mamun into the strange little carriage. Bells jingled as the camels began to move slowly through the courtyard. The caliph opened tiny shutters to let in air and sunlight. Jack looked out. Everyone bowed as the royal carriage passed by. The boys playing ball, the gardeners weeding flowers beds, the women carrying pots. Jack had lots of questions about the House of the Wisdom, but now that he knew their friend Mamun was the mighty caliph, he felt shy. Eve and Annie seemed to be at a loss for words as they rode past the date palms and the palace gardens. "We are here," said the Caliph as the camels came to a stop. He helped Jack and Annie out of the carriage. Then he led them up the steps of a large brick building. "Welcome to the House of Wisdom," said the Caliph, "a learning center for the entire world." "What happens here?" asked Jack. "Come, I will show you." The Caliph escorted Jack and Annie through the front door and down a wide hallway. "We have a laboratory for discovering new medicines," he said, "and an observatory for viewing the stars and planets. And this is my favorite room of all." The Caliph stopped before an arched doorway. He opened the door and led Jack and Annie into a huge, silent room. "This is the library," he said in a harsh voice. "Eve and I must be very quiet here." Late afternoon light slanted down from high open windows, streaming over bookshelves and colorful carpets. Men read at long tables. When the readers looked up and saw the Caliph, they all started to rise. "Please continue with your work. Do not mind us," the Caliph said softly. The men sat down again and returned to their reading and writing. The Caliph pointed to a bearded man sitting by a window, hunched over a pile of papers. The man was writing furiously. "That is Al-Khwarizmi," whispered the Caliph. "He is truly great mathematician. He has perfected the Indian way of writing numbers." The Caliph pointed to numbers written on a board on the wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. "We call this the Arabic numerals," he said. "Arabic numerals?" said Jack. "Yes," said the Caliph. Jack whispered to Annie, "We use the Arabic numerals too. They must have come from that guy." The Caliph pointed to another man reading by the window. "He is Al-Kindi. He is perhaps the most brilliant scientist and thinker in the world," whispered the Caliph. "But he is very humble. He believes knowledge cannot belong to only one person or country. It belongs to all. The world grows wise only when wisdom is shared." "I agree, and that is why I built this house." "I agree too," whispered Annie. "Me too," said Jack. "Scientists and scholars from many countries come here to read and study and share their knowledge," whispered the Caliph. "We have thousands of books. They have all been copied by hand." "By hand?" said Annie. "That's a lot of writing." "What kind of books?" asked Jack. "Books of history, mathematics, geography, and medicine," said the Caliph. "But we also have a very special book of fantasy and wonder." The Caliph took a large, thick book down from a shelf. He rested it on a table and turned the pages to show Jack and Annie. The book was filled with fancy writing and beautiful illustrations. There were pictures of Aladdin and Ali Baba, magic lamps and flying carpets. "Oh, tales from the Arabian Nights," said Annie. "We know those stories." "You do? Wonderful," the Caliph said with a smile. "It seems someone from our land has traveled to yours and shared our stories. Perhaps someone will soon bring stories from your land back to us. That is the great power of a book, no?" "Yes," said Annie, "and I hope your land will hear of this book, too, someday," said the Caliph. He held up the book of Aristotle's writings. "After I have read it, I will have it copied so I can share its wisdom with the world. Thank you for helping me." "Sure," Jack said modestly. "That was our mission." "I fear I must now return to my duties," said the Caliph. "But please, stay in the library. Read until you must go to meet your family, and come back someday to visit me." "We'll try," said Jack. "Goodbye, Annie. Goodbye, Jack. Bye, Mamun," Annie said. The mighty Caliph gave them a warm smile and a deep bow. Then he left Jack and Annie in his wondrous library. Chapter 10. Before the Moon Rises. Jack and Annie looked around the big room. The scholars and scientists were all deep into their reading. "I can't believe Mamun is the caliph," whispered Jack. "Remember that life is full of surprises?" Annie repeated from Merlin's letter. "Yeah, and return to the treehouse before the moon rises," Jack finished. "I almost forgot that part," said Annie. "Me too," said Jack. "Shh," said one of the scholars and scientists. "Sorry," said Annie. Jack and Annie looked up at the open window. The sky was pink. The sun would be setting soon. "We have to get back to the treehouse," Annie whispered, "before the moon rises." "I know," said Jack, "but how?" He felt a moment of panic. The treehouse is really far away, he thought. If we traveled on Beauty and Cutie, it would take a whole day and night to get there. And what about sandstorms and bandits? Jack looked at Annie. She was smiling. "Magic," she mouthed. Jack caught his breath and nodded. They both looked around to see if any one of the scholars or scientists were watching. They weren't. Jack quietly slipped Teddy and Kathleen's book out of his bag. He and Annie turned their backs to the others and opened the book to the table of contents. Annie pointed to turn into ducks. Jack gave her a look. Annie pointed to fly through the air. "Yes," said Jack. "Shh," said the scholar. Jack turned to the right page. He held up the book so they both could see. Jack said the first line of the rhyme. "Sail through the sky where you wish to go." Annie said the second. "Sonny foray, sonny roll." "You must be quiet, or you will have to leave the library," one of the scholars said grouchily. "Don't worry, we're going," said Annie. A wind blew through the tall open window, fluttering the pages of the Arabian Nights book. The scholars and scientists grabbed their papers before they blew away. The wind picked up a corner of the small carpet Jack and Annie were standing on. The carpet rippled. Jack and Annie fell forward as they tried to stand. The carpet lifted off the floor. "Oh!" cried all the scholars and scientists. The carpet began floating up. It rose above the long tables. It rose above the shelves of books. Everyone jumped out of their chairs and scrambled out of the way, shouting, "Help! Move! Watch out! Impossible! What is happening?" "Bye!" called Annie. The carpet floated to the tall open window and glided out of the House of Wisdom. Chilly air blew against Jack and Annie. Their headcloths flapped wildly as they clung to the end of the carpet and sailed through the sky. "This is great!" cried Jack. "Really great!" shouted Annie. The carpet soared over the House of Wisdom, over the caliph riding back to his palace in his carriage, and over the camel stable. The carpet zipped over the green dome with the horse on top. It flew over the courtyard, where the boys were still playing ball, over the third wall and past the green field and the grand avenue. They're right here. And the flying rug. The carpet flew over the second wall, the houses, the hospitals, and the 100 lions in the zoo. It flew over the first wall, the arch bridge, and the moat. The carpet zoomed over the bazaar with a maze of stalls, the shoemakers, potters, and weavers. It sailed high over the road to Baghdad. Below, Jack and Annie saw the men driving donkey carts, the boys leading sheep, and the women carrying pots. The carpet flew faster and faster and faster over the river, the grazing fields, and the dunes with the whistling sands, over the red glowing desert toward the setting sun and the small oasis in the middle of nowhere. The magic carpet slid smoothly onto the scrubby grass, near the small spring and the thorny shrubs, near the date palms and the rope ladder. The desert looked as if it were on fire with golden red light. Jack felt giddy. That was so fast," he said. "I can't believe we made it all the way here." "No kidding," said Annie. "The magic must have helped us stay on. She and Jack tried to stand. They teetered and fell against each other. "Steady," said Annie, giggling. "You okay?" perfect, said Jack. He put his bag over his shoulder and staggered off the carpet. Then he and Annie headed over to the tallest date palm. Jack pulled the rope ladder from behind the trunk, and they climbed up. When they got inside the treehouse, Jack took out Merlin's litter. He glanced out the window one last time. The sun was gone. The carpet looked small and ordinary in the shadows beneath the palm tree. The desert looked vast and silent and lonely. A thin crescent moon had appeared in the sky. "Return to the treehouse before the moon rises," said Jack. "That was our last instruction from Merlin," said Annie. "We're all done." Jack looked down at Merlin's litter. He pointed at the words Jack and Annie of Frog Creek. "I wish we could go home," he said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still. Absolutely still. The Frog Creek woods were chilly in the afternoon air. Jack and Anna were dressed in their jeans and jackets again. Jack's shoulder bag was a backpack. "Good trip," Jack said simply. Annie nodded. "Really cool," she said. "I guess we should get home," said Jack. "I have lots of homework to finish." "Leave the research book, but don't forget to take Teddy and Kathleen's rhyme book for safekeeping," said Annie. Jack reached into his backpack. He pulled out the book on the Golden Age of Baghdad and placed it on the treehouse floor. Then he threw his pack over his shoulder and climbed down the ladder. Annie followed. Together, they walked through the early spring woods. "We passed Merlin's second test," said Annie. "We helped spread wisdom to the world." "That's a pretty big deal." "Be humble," Jack reminded her. "Well, I guess Teddy and Kathleen's book did the hard stuff for us." Annie said humbly. "I miss them," said Jack. "Me too," said Annie. "But I think they might have been with us in Baghdad." "What do you mean?" said Jack. "Remember that servant girl and boy who took us to the caliph?" said Annie. "They sort of came out of nowhere, and we never actually saw their faces, did we?" "No," said Jack. "You think?" Annie shrugged. "Maybe." Jack smiled and took a deep breath. "Maybe," he said softly. "2 missions and 5 rhymes left," said Annie. "I hope Merlin sends for us again soon." "But not too soon," said Jack. "I need to do my homework first." Annie laughed. "Math with Arabic numerals?" she said. "Right," said Jack. "And maybe tomorrow we'll go to the library and see if they have any books of Aristotle's wisdom." "Good idea," said Annie. A cold spring breeze rustled the trees, and Jack and Annie hurried toward home. The end. Thanks for watching. Good night, son. Love you.